After 3 years, SpaceX's Falcon Heavy, the most powerful rocket in the world, lifts off with U.S. military satellites as its payload. On the USSF-44 mission, the Falcon Heavy launched a few sensitive payloads for the U.S. Space Force into geostationary orbit. USSF-44 mission marks an overall SpaceX Falcon Heavy's fourth launch and its first since June 2019. This low flying rate contrasts sharply with the Falcon 9 workhorse of the corporation, which has, on average, flown more than thrice per week this year. And whereas the vast majority of those Falcon 9 launches utilized rockets that had already flown, today's Falcon Heavy mission used 3 entirely new first stages. All 27 of the Falcon Heavy's first-stage Merlin engines fired with 64 metric tons of thrust when the countdown clock reached 0 this morning, launching the massive rocket off the launch pad. The launch vehicle's 2 side boosters separated about 2.5 minutes after liftoff to begin their synchronized boost-back burns and return to Cape Canaveral. In the past, SpaceX has attempted to land the main rocket of the Falcon Heavy in the Atlantic Ocean using one of its robotic drone ships. However, in order to devote the most fuel to a direct insertion into geostationary orbit, which is located about 22,000 miles, 35,400 kilometers, above Earth, the core booster for this mission had to forego landing and future reuse. This was due to the mass and orbital requirements of USSF-44's payloads. Photographs of the second stage burn were not made available due to the military payload's secret nature. 4 minutes into the flight, the central core booster of the Falcon Heavy parted from the upper stage that was atop it and started to descend toward its watery doom in the Atlantic Ocean. The 2 Falcon Heavy side boosters executed synchronized landing burns 8 minutes after liftoff. About 30 seconds later, the pair successfully touched down in SpaceX's landing zones 1 and 2 at the nearby Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. On this launch, every core was completely new. In a related article, NASA chose SpaceX's Falcon Heavy for a $332 million mission to launch the Lunar Gateway's components in 2024. According to a NASA announcement, SpaceX will deliver 2 significant components of the Gateway lunar orbiter, which will serve as a pit stop for upcoming moon missions. The first employable lunar space station, made composed of the power and propulsion element and habitation and logistics outpost, will launch aboard a Falcon Heavy in 2024 for an estimated $332 million. However, NASA's choice of the launch vehicle to deliver these 2 essential components to lunar orbit is a big endorsement for SpaceX and may actually lead to more work in the future if the agency's own space launch system continues to be delayed. Fun fact: because of the design's modularity, a side booster from an Falcon Heavy launch may be repurposed as the first stage for a F-9 mission, giving SpaceX's mission operations more flexibility.